Obviously, a lot of people are talking about the discrepancy between what Trump said and what Trump is doing when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. And I saw you kind of go off in a very justifiable way on Speaker Mike Johnson, and you're I think perfectly positioned to react to what he has to say. As people probably know, Johnson went from saying we have to release the files to adjourning the House for their summer recess a day early, which thwarted the effort to force Republicans into voting on the release of the Epstein Files. And of course, there's also a bipartisan effort led by Ro Khanna and Massie about this issue. And so let's take a listen to what Mike Johnson had to say about Massie in particular.
People have wanted these files for years. And then, the president's staff, administration, his own children, his vice president have promised that these files would come out. And now we're being told it's a hoax. It doesn't wash. And whether it's Republican, Democrat, or independent, across all those categories, it's only like 5 or 6% who don't want the files out. It would behoove the Speaker to bring this to the floor. It would be in best interest of this institution. Just vote this out. Give it to the Senate.
So as the leader of my party, I lead the incumbent protection program. Okay, that's my job. I go all around the country. I travel endlessly, incessantly. I have to raise over $300 million to do that, and we want everybody to come back. And some people, I try to protect them from themselves. They kick and scream and bite their own colleagues. Some people seem to enjoy in trying to inflict political pain on their own teammates. I'm not going to address anybody individually, but I'll tell you that some here are much more frustrated than others. There's a small, tiny handful, but one in particular who's given me lots of consternation. I don't understand. I don't understand Thomas Massie's motivation. I really don't. I don't know how his mind works. I don't know what he's thinking. Thomas Massie could have brought his discharge petition any time over the last 4.5 years. Over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, he could have done that at any time. And now he's clamoring as if there's some sort of timeline on it. It's interesting to me that he chose the election of President Trump to bring this, to team up with the Democrats and bring this discharge petition. So do I have some concern about that? I do. But in me and my way, I try to follow Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, never speak evil of another Republican. My gosh, it's hard to do sometimes around here. I also try to follow the scripture. It says, bless those who persecute you. So let me just say about Thomas Massie, could you just accept my Southern bless his heart? Okay. I don't know what else to say about it. We're for maximum transparency. We're engaging in that right now. And we don't need political games.
Political games. What is he doing right there?
Oh gosh, there's a lot to say about that. And as in line with what I said earlier, if you're going to trot out the good book, make sure you know what it actually says and apply it properly.
It doesn't say protect sex offenders.
I've looked through it several times now, and it doesn't say that anywhere. What it does say is return good for evil with people that you interact with, and look out for the benefit of others and seek their good above your own. It doesn't say, hey, if somebody doesn't agree with you politically, crush them. It doesn't say, hey, I'm not going to talk about anybody individually, and then about 20 seconds later say, but Thomas Massie, yeah, I have a problem with him. Because listen, this whole thing here, this is one of the main things that's wrong with American politics today. Both parties are egregious. This is just the most recent example, to where he is saying, I'm on the incumbent protection policy. Ha ha ha. And they were laughing about that. So he's spending all of his time going around collecting, to his statement there, $300 million, presumably per cycle, just to get somebody else reelected, not to do any business for the United States, not to, pass legislation that helps Americans, not to focus on the issues inside the House of Representatives, which is what the Speaker is designed by nature to do. No, he wants to spend most of his time, or at least a major portion of it, raising money for somebody else so that they get to stay in office. Ha ha ha. That was really funny. And then the other thing is that he's demonizing the Thomas Massie in particular, because he's quote persecuting me. He said, bless those who persecute you, implying or directly stating that Massie was persecuting the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And all he's doing, because when you look at what Massie has said, he's got some very reasonable statements. He goes, I want the truth. You say you're all about transparency. Let's get it out there. Let's get the stuff out there. Let's find out what's on these things, and let's have it for America. Now, all that is him saying, I'm not going to obey whatever the Speaker of the House says. Because the 761,000 people that live in his district, whichever is about the average of people's district, they didn't hire Thomas Massie and vote for him so that he could go up there and be a mouthpiece for whoever the House Speaker of the House of Representatives is. They sent him up there to represent them and their needs before Congress. And it's now been eradicated where that's no longer the case. Now then, you're expected, whether Republican or Democrat, to just shut up. You can share your opinions elsewhere as long as you vote the way you're told here and don't cause us any trouble. And that means we don't have a representative form of government anymore. We just have, and this has evolved over decades, I know, but that's an example of why we don't. Because we don't have people looking out for our needs. We have only the policy and party elites running the show and demonizing anybody who doesn't play ball with them. And of course, we're talking specifically about the Epstein situation itself, which is a moral issue, but there's a lot wrong with that.
So why the lack of transparency around the Epstein case? What are people hiding and why?
Well, I mean, that's the big question. Of course, we're left to speculate without having information and knowledge about what's in there. And we're left to look at leaks and rumors around people. But, I guess I got to tell you, Katie, looking at what we can see, looking at the evidence, that's what we can do. And you had, of course, whether you talk about Bongino, Kash Patel, any number of other Republicans, Trump himself occasionally on the campaign trail, we're all talking about how the Democrats were hiding all kinds of stuff behind this Epstein Files, and we want those files to be released, blah, 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 until they get in, and now all of a sudden they don't want anything to come out. One of the other things, well, and that by itself implies there's something in there they don't want you to know. And so now it's like, oh, snap, we better backtrack on this pretty quickly now that they know what's inside of it. So you don't need to see it. There's nothing here, folks. Just keep moving on. Well, the other thing that really kind of stands out to me is Trump's behavior himself. So I have never seen this guy get spooked on anything. The Access Hollywood tapes, something that would have destroyed virtually every other candidate was water off his back, and he wasn't backing down from it. He was kind of confident saying whatever he was saying there. And anything else, there's just been no scandals. I mean, my goodness, the guy was impeached twice. Daily, it's not all fake. They are going after him on the left, and they did try to weaponize the Justice Department against him, I think, in many regards. So it's not all been, made up, but nothing has spooked him, even when he went to trial, et cetera. Something has him spooked here. He's behaving in ways I have never seen him behave. And that leads me to believe that there is something in there he really doesn't want his followers to see. And when some of the stuff we know has been out there and it's just been water off a duck's back, that he's worried about this makes me really want to know what's in those files.
Well, what do you think the options are? I mean, something about him. It could be something about him, or it could be something about someone he wants to protect. Are those the options, you think?
One of two things, and possibly both. One is that he himself was guilty of doing some of these things that are being accused by, the people who went to Epstein Island and all that kind of stuff. So that he may have done something, because especially if you do anything to a minor, even Trump's most ardent supporters, they're not going to fly. That's not going to fly. But the other thing is that maybe there are some really powerful people, whether that's just business leaders, Republican and Democrat figures, et cetera, and they're all saying this thing can't come out, because if it does, then we'll be forced to go with what we know, and you won't like that either. And, you have to have us on board, so you need to keep that quiet. And it could be both of those things, but my gut tells me that there's something that Trump did that he didn't want anybody to know, but that's pure speculation. I have no knowledge about it.
Sure, yeah. I know it is shocking when he's like, no, don't talk about this, talk about that instead. I mean, who does that?
Over and over and over.
People should really focus on how well the country's doing, or they should focus on the fact that Barack Hussein Obama led a coup, state attorney. But you ought to be speaking about Larry Summers. You ought to be speaking about some of his friends that are hedge fund guys. They're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
Can you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the set?
Yeah, sure. If I
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
It's like, even parents know that with kids, you can't say to them, like, don't focus on this, focus on that. Because then, of course, what they'll do is they'll focus on this, not that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Trump, you need better talking points.